All right, here with Trent Hidlay, 92 kilogram rep for Team USA. Trent, I feel like your story the last couple years, one of the best guys, no doubt about it. But you've just been in some legendary weight classes.
Yeah.
What was it like? We'll talk about making the team this year, but what was that experience like where you're in a weight with a four-time national champion, all these really, really elite guys, and how were you able to maintain your confidence throughout that?
Yeah. Well, I think going into my sixth year, 184 was just getting kind of hard for me to make as it is. And I was really just putting myself through the ringer week in, week out, making that weight. And the way that I train is so intense that I just felt like I was constantly battling just getting dinged up, not feeling great. So, I had the last year and I knew Brooks was going up to 197 and he was a guy that I wasn't able to beat. So it was just, it was a perfect situation for me to, one, move up a weight class, feel good and train hard, and also, chase after him because, he had been the guy the past 3 years at NCAAs I've lost to. So I think just the mentality of like challenging myself as much as I could. I could have stayed down at 184 and it wouldn't have been any easier, because there's good guys at every weight. But I just felt like in that moment, going into my sixth year with the Olympic team trials after the NCAA tournament, I was looking to challenge myself to get as good at wrestling as I could in that remaining college year that I had to get ready for NCAAs, but then also, get ready for freestyle stuff as well. And I didn't end up winning. I lost to Aaron again, but I feel like in that year I grew a lot and I got a lot better at wrestling in some specific situations and just positions that maybe I wasn't as good in. And even though I didn't win NCAAs and I didn't make the Olympic team, I feel like I got a lot better. And I think that experience was huge for me. But more so just the mentality of just not being afraid to chase the best competition and just compete against the best guys in the country. And I feel like when I do that, I continue to inch towards the goals that I have for myself. And, a couple years later, being able to make my first world team is super big.
Yeah. How did you arrive at 92 as your weight? Sometimes guys are like, no, I need to be in an Olympic weight. You'd been at 86 a year ago, and then you came up at 92, challenged David, and in that bracket was Zahid. How did you settle on 92 kilograms?
Well, I think a little bit of using the experience I had when I wrestled 197 in college. I just felt really good. My training was great. And not having to focus on losing the weight to make 184 or 86 just gives me a lot more freedom in my training to train the way I want to. And I love to go. I'm very intense. Like I love to push to push it almost to the point of maybe overtraining and kind of rely on my coaches to pull me back a little bit. And I think it's hard to do that while cutting a lot of weight. So just having the experience I did at 197, I think looking back at that, it's like, why wouldn't I continue to do this and put myself in a position where I can train hard, I can try to get big and strong and just feel good, and then, wrestle 92. And, when the Olympic year comes around, be ready to bring it back down to 86, which I don't think will be that hard because I'm not that tall, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a super hard weight class for me to make, but 92 at this point in my career just felt like a good opportunity for me to stay healthy, train hard, and I felt like there was an opening for the world team at that weight, and I was ready to win and give myself an opportunity to wrestle at the world championship. So that it was all kind of a perfect storm.
Yeah. You talk about your technical developments and areas you were able to focus on. What have those been for you? Everyone knows you for your underhook and your cross attacks and that kind of brute force physicality. But what are the technical developments you're still working on?
I think developing just solid attacks to both sides of the body and being able to mix that up. I feel like I've done a better job of that these past 6 months when I've been competing and being able to open up a little bit more instead of just focus on one attack, be ready to, and it may not be a full committed attack, but at least, make the guy think that I'm going to the other side of the body to open up my underhook side and kind of developing more of just a baseline sweep single that I can trust in any match. So I think, at this point in my career, it's like I know what I'm good at and how can I make that a little bit better while continuing to upgrade some other areas. So I think adding some more offense, I've been able to do that recently, and I trust it a little bit more so that when I get into competition, I'm not afraid to get into different positions. But I think, as much as the technical improvement, it's the mental improvement as well. The more I compete, the more I go in my career, the more I figure out, what's my recipe for success? What's my process look like as far as a mental preparation leading up to my match that helps me compete well? And I feel like I've been honing in on that a lot, which I've been competing better. I've been competing free. And I think when I get into that mindset, it allows me to open up with some of the technical improvements that I focused on in practice.
Gotcha. You talk about your personality, intense. I feel like, there's Trent, like the dude, like I see you here, I see you around, nice guy, super friendly. And then I see this dude on the mat. And that's not the most uncommon thing that you have kind of that transit, but I think yours is like maybe the most stark that I've seen. Could you just describe how that kind of came about, how that competitive aspect became like this super intense, intimidating, you're like punching through a chair in celebration, just like those two kind of sides of Trent. Just explain that to me.
Well, I think I'm just, at my core, I'm a competitor. I think that's probably one way to describe me the most is I love to compete. Whether it's a backyard football game or it's, a wrestling match, like when the competition comes, I'm going to bring my all. And I think the passion that I have for competing and the passion that I put into my training, I think that's where I allow that to come out because, when you're preparing for, a sport like this, there's not a lot of great times in it, right? Like training is really hard. I put myself in really uncomfortable positions and just a lot of pain in training that when I get to competition and I do feel good and I'm able to execute, it's just I enjoy it a lot. And I think there's a ton of reward with understanding that it's okay to not feel so great during training and preparation and then, let it loose when it comes time to compete. So I think like my intensity, my passion, I think it always comes out in competition. And I feel like I compete better too when I'm not afraid to show that. I think as far as a sport, it's mostly pretty stoic and people the old timers like you to, I don't know, what do they say? Act like you've been there before.
Yeah.
But it's like I just have so much excitement when I compete, and I think some of it too is in my career. We talked about it a little bit in the past 6 years. There's been a lot of moments where I was really close to achieving the ultimate goals that I want for myself. And when you experience kind of heartbreak after heartbreak, it doesn't, I think I've done a good job of being able to like accept them and cope with them and be able to move on. But those things are always in the back of your head whenever you finally break through and you get a big win. It's like, I remember when the tables were flipped here a couple years ago. So I think just number one, trying to just be proud of yourself and happy with the effort that you give is number one for me. So that when I do go out there and I compete and I give it my all, I think the passion and intensity that I wrestle with, it shows, and if I lived my whole life like that, I'd probably be burnt out by 12 p.m. every day.
Right.
But I just being able to get into that mentality of being an ultimate competitor when I step on the mat is something I've honed in pretty well, and I love to compete. I love the energy of it.
Yeah. You talk about your training, like kind of bringing yourself to that line all the time and like working really hard at the point of discomfort, et cetera. Have you had to learn how to balance that? Has that ever bitten you or like, man, maybe I did too much and I'm really not feeling great in competition?
The interesting thing, I don't know if I felt it as much in competition, probably a little bit more when I was cutting weight too. There's probably when I learned a lesson of like, I'm training really, really hard and I'm cutting a lot of weight and, I'm not competing as well as I want to. So I think I've been able to kind of monitor that a little bit. But my coaches, they know how to pull me back when I need to. I think Jamil and Zach Esposito just have a ton of experience. And Pat, I've been with him for plus 7 years. So they know when I need to pull back a little bit. And I think the biggest thing for me is, if I go into a wrestling room, even if it's supposed to be a light practice, I'm probably going to turn it into a hard one. So for me, it's just stay out of the room if I need to. If it's a light day, just don't go into the wrestling room because I'll turn it into live pretty quick. And then I'll run out of partners that'll be willing to go with me. So I think just like recognizing like, hey, if you pushed really, really hard for 2 or 3 days, let's stay off the mat and let's focus on some other areas that you can get better in without, having to take yourself to that point of exhaustion every day.
Yeah, I think, after Final X, I think the conventional thought was like, Trent could go and come back with some hardware. And then after your performance at the ranking series and beating that many medalists, the conclusion is Trent can absolutely win a world title this
Mm-hmm.
year. What does winning a tournament like that do for your confidence?
Well, I think it gives you confidence, but I feel like immediately after I won, it's like, let's not get caught up into the results of this. This is a ranking series tournament, and if I've learned anything from watching, the better foreigners guys, like they're going to show up at the World Championships, and they're going to show up better than what they were at that tournament. So, I enjoyed it. I thought I competed really well. I was just really proud. I was really proud of just the effort and my mental preparation going into each match and being able to hone in on that process that I've kind of designed for myself. So I was really happy with that. I was happy that I got out there and I made some mistakes and I responded right away. And I think that's kind of becoming one of my better assets as a competitor, is not being afraid to give up points and just keep the match going and start early. So I was really happy with my performance. I think it gives me a lot of confidence that I am honing in on being able to structure that process for me and compete the way that I want. But at the same time, it's like there's another level that I can hit, and I know I'm going to have to if I'm going to be able to repeat those types of results and win at the World Championship. So yeah, confidence, but also just trying to kind of be, self-monitor my emotions a little bit and enjoy it for a little bit, but the end goal is still, the World Championships and performing my best there. So I know that I can take what I learned from that tournament and help myself to prepare and compete well, but I also still got to be ready to bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's been the message from, obviously you have your NC State coaches, but from USA staff, Coach Zadek, Coach Russell, et cetera, to you? How have they been supporting you, helping you, getting you prepared?
Yeah, I think it's just continuing to challenge me to open up and win in different ways. I think one thing that I did really, really well in Budapest was, I feel like in the past in some foreign tournaments overseas, just not necessarily as comfortable with the people that I'm wrestling, or kind of maybe overthinking a little bit. And I think I just had a lot more poise, and that was kind of the word that I felt like I wrestled with a lot of poise, and that was something I was happy. And I think that's what the coaches kind of mentioned to me as well. In both of in the first match and the finals, I gave up the first takedown in 45 seconds, just wrestling guys with different styles. But there was never a moment where I altered my game plans. And I went in with a game plan, I executed it, whether things were working or not, and the results were good. So I think just building confidence with the coaching staff, especially, the NC State coaches I've got great relationships with, and they know how to coach me. And then, also getting in the room with Coach Zadek and Coach Russell, and just, figuring out, them asking me, like, how can we help? And me asking them, what do you see from my game? And a lot of it is little adjustments, because they've been there, they've done that, they've seen guys succeed, they know what it takes to help guys succeed. But for the most part, it's just the message, I think, is, be yourself. Whatever you're doing is working to a certain extent, and let's take what's working and let's add a couple of wrinkles that we think will help you even more. But at the end of the day, stay true to yourself, stay true to the work that you're putting in, and just stay hungry.
Yeah. What has NC State meant to you in your career?
Just a lot. I have a lot of love and pride for NC State. And when I got out of college, especially this past year and a half, just kind of seeing how the landscape of college athletics is changing, I think it reinforced to me how good of a decision I made going to a program like NC State and being there for 6 years, and now being able to train there and just be around the community. I walk into our facility, and it's almost like I feel like a celebrity, just because I get to grow up with these people. I grew so much in 6 years, and I did it with the same coaches and the same teammates and the fans. It's such a special thing to have that mutual respect and love for, me for the program and the program for me. And now that I can continue to rep NC State, it's a dream come true. I feel like every day I get to wake up and really live out my dream, and I have so much support. Not just the coaches, but the AD as well. You get to see these people every day in the hall, and you know how much they support you, and it makes the training and competing easier.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, I feel like I'm really late to the party on this, but I've seen it for so long, and now I don't know what it means. But what is B2W?
B2W is my mantra. It stands for Born to Win.
Okay.
So it was something I started doing my freshman year of high school. And I think it's kind of taken on different meanings for me. I think when I was a freshman in high school, a little immature, I think it was literal that I would just wanted to win really bad. But I think now when I think of myself, I talked a little bit of just loving to compete and loving to just be a competitor. I think that I was born to be a competitor. I was born to be someone that figures it out. You know, no matter how many times I get beaten down or I come close and fail, like I'm always going to get back up. And to me, that's what a winner is, right? So I think born to win has taken on different meanings for me, but that's when I'm getting ready to run out to the tunnel and I'm ready to compete. It's like that last little phrase. It's like you were born to do this. You were born to compete. You were born to be a winner in all aspects of life. And that doesn't always mean winning a wrestling match or doing the right thing, but the process of that mentality, I think, is kind of just shapes me.
Yeah.
They tried to get this was funny, at the Olympic trials this year, they're like super big on not, you can't have any like political messages or anything. And I was getting warmed up and they're like, yeah, he can't have that on his shoes. I was like, this isn't political. I was like, this is just getting me fired up. So they let me keep it on my shoes.
Sweet.
I was like, well, if I have to take it off, I'll just write it on my leg or something with a marker.
Kind of quick tattoo.
Yeah.
That's funny. If it weren't wrestling, what would Trent Hidlay be doing? If like Trent Hidlay never encountered the sport of wrestling, what do you think you'd be up to? Feels like you need wrestling in some way. You need that outlet.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily need wrestling, but I need competition.
Right.
I need to be able to push myself and train at hard limits and kind of find different pieces of myself in pain and discomfort. And I think wrestling is just a perfect sport for that. It would probably be something athletic. I loved baseball and football growing up. I think as I got into freshman year and I wasn't as big, football became difficult. But I think just anything competitive, I would find. I love math. I love finance. Probably, I mean, you can compete in all areas of life. I think I could find something to have that outlet. But I think sooner or later, if I didn't wrestle, I would find the sport.
Yeah.
You know, if I was never introduced to wrestling and I was 25, I feel like I would find my way into some type of wrestling practice or something. I don't know. I just think that it's not that I'm magnetized to it, but just the aspect of the sport, the mentality of it is to me to a T, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think math competitions would bring you the same energy enough
I
to
think
make
it
you
would.
want to
I
punch
mean,
yourself in the face?
I was a super competitor in school. Yeah, many people might not know this, and not to necessarily brag, but I got a 4.0 every semester in college for 6 years, except for my last one. I missed a homework assignment like the last week. I got like a 3.94.
Super
but
senioritis.
I just love to compete, and I took kind of the attitude that I did in wrestling to school. You know, if I got a bad grade on a test, it ate at me. Like I hated it. So I think just I always wanted to do my best, and it started really my freshman year, the first semester. The coach's message, like the standard was, if you get a 3.0, you're never going to hear from us. You know, you're not going to have issues with us. And I was like, 3.0, like I feel like I can do that pretty easily. Like why not try to get a 4.0? And it was a lot of work, but I was able to do it. And I was like, screw it, we could do this every semester. So, you know, I probably spent maybe more time than I should have, but it was just, it's an addicting feeling to get something like that. And like I said, when you're a competitor, you want to give your all every time, whether it's in practice or, you know, a gen ed class. Like I just wanted to win. Yeah.
That's awesome. Last question, probably. Okay, you go.
Yeah, keep them coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This is less of a question and more of me pitching you a vision here.
All right.
This is going to take a sec, so stick with me.
Yeah.
So imagine you win a world title this year. They announce your name, Trent Hidlay. You wrap the American flag around your shoulders. You're doing a lap. And just when everyone thinks your celebration's over, someone tosses you a hoagie. You take a bite out of it, and everyone goes crazy. What are the chances we see that again someday?
I would do it for sure. I mean, it's funny. I was talking to my brother a couple weeks ago. I was like, how long am I going to live out this like hoagie boy thing? I feel like a lot of people don't even like realize what it's from. But like every once in a while, I'll kind of like bring it out and be like, oh yeah, I'm still the hoagie boy, you know? I don't know. I feel like UWW would have some like crazy rule against that, and the refs would be trying to tackle you. But I'm sure when you win a world title, you can pretty much do whatever you want for at least a little bit on the mat. So I'm not afraid to bring the hoagie back out.
Sweet. Yeah, we're gonna have to. I'll do some homework here on the rules and see if there's any. I'm just gonna command F sandwiches.
That was the ref didn't like. Whenever I did it, who's number one that year? He kept trying. He kept telling me to stop. I was like, I was gassed. My throat was so dry. If it was like super dry in the what do they call it, the snake pit at Lehigh. And I took that bite of it, and I couldn't even chew it. So I was like trying to swallow, and I couldn't. And I got the ref in my ear, like yelling at me. I was like, dude, I don't even know what's going on.
It's so funny. After that happened, we're like, never hire that ref again. Like, this is supposed to be fun. Like, why are we like?
Well, right before, you guys were like, go out there, have fun, celebrate, put on a show. And then he was like yelling at me. I was like, whatever. It's already in my hands. I might as well go with it.
That was so funny. Man, I think that's a great place to probably leave it off, the sandwich talk. I think that would be, well, actually, no. So I feel like the last, 5-6 years is kind of like, in a lot of ways, it was kind of like, it was a different generation's time in your weight classes. Do you feel like, is it your time?
Yeah, I think it's all relative, right? Like, I think it comes in waves a little bit, and new talents emerge and kind of find their way. I feel like my journey, my college career, my experience on the senior level, like I wrestled a lot on the senior level in college, and I love to compete. I beat a lot of really good guys, and I think that gave me confidence. Like, listen, if I can beat these guys while I'm still in college, like imagine what I can do when I start training full-time freestyle, and I give that same energy to it. So I think it's just taken me some time to kind of truly figure out like what my style looks like. How do I compete like that? How do I win big matches? How do I win when I'm not scoring that much? And just really honing in on the mental side of things. And it's a constant evolving process. So I know I still have a lot that I can learn and get better at, but this is probably the most complete I've felt as a wrestler, as a competitor. And nothing really has changed. I mean, I haven't changed much than I was 4 years ago, but the sport is hard, and it takes you a while to figure out, especially when you're competing against the best guys in the world. You may feel like you have the answers at 18, and then you may feel like you have the answers at 22, and it might not take you until you're 26 until you start to find a couple of those answers. And then, you get humbled pretty quick in matches. So I think I've been on a long journey and a long process. I'm excited to keep it going, but I know there's still a lot more to learn, and I think the mentality of that, like the growth over winning mindset has been huge for me. I think early in my career, I was so dead set on result and winning and, caring about that so much. But now it's way more to the point where I want to wrestle. I want people to, when I go onto the mat, I want people to be like, this guy wrestles so hard. Like this guy wrestles like a maniac. And I feel like when I do that, my results are good. So I want to wrestle like a psycho. I want to wrestle hard in your face, and I want to leave that impression that, if you came in, whether it was a competition or you came into the practice room, you'd be like, holy smokes, like this guy's taking it a little bit too far. That's kind of how I want to compete. And that's taken me, 6+ years to figure that out. And I feel like I'm figuring it out. I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way too.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time, Trent.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yes.